Imagine I am halfway across the country, like my recent Toronto to Halifax road trip that I did, and some idiot blows through a red light and T-bones me going through an intersection, and my car is wrecked, unusable. What do I even do in that situation? So I got to thinking about that exact scenario, and also the fact that our charging infrastructure right now is still super diverse. You've got NACS, you've got CCS, J1772, TT30P, NEMA 1450, and a standard wall outlet. And so I wanted to make sure I could charge at as many places as possible. And then of course, as someone who goes camping year round, especially in winter and spring, when there's snow on the ground and it can be a bit muddy respectively, I can get the car into some tricky situations, which has happened in the past and required me to get a tow. And so I kind of categorize this into 3 different areas. I've got my charging equipment, I've got my recovery gear, and I've got my get home bag. As for all of my charging stuff, this lives in these 2 bags here, which as you've seen in my videos, live in the frunk of my Model 3. So in the one here, the big thing that we have in here is this is a 100-foot and most importantly, 15 amp continuous rated extension cord. My Tesla Model 3 will only ever pull up to 12 amps off a standard wall outlet, so this is more than sufficient in gauge to handle that kind of current continuously. I have used this thing so many times because more often than not, especially when I'm staying at Airbnbs, I am never able to park close enough to that outlet to be able to plug the mobile connector in directly. I always have to run this extension cord, whether that's because I have to park down at the other end of a parking lot for a multi-home shared like parking situation, or in more than one instance where the Airbnb I'm staying at is at the back of a house and on the 2nd floor, and I've had to run this out the door from the Airbnb up the parking lot to the car just so I could charge. Don't underestimate how much you can charge off a standard wallet like this overnight. So say for instance, while me and the wife were out in Halifax, we'd go out, do our touristy stuff, driving around, going to stores and such, get back at about 5 o'clock, get up and head out the next day at about 10 o'clock. That's enough hours to have basically charged our car 1/3 off of just the wall outlet. And the other one is where all of the adapters and stuff are. So this is the biggest addition that has come in since my last look into all my charging equipment. I made a video on this. This is my CCS to NACS adapter. This doubles my fast charging options, and I use this on my Halifax trip if you haven't watched that video. I've got the mobile connector itself, which is basically what lets you plug into basically any AC outlet that you can find as long as you have the right adapter. As you can see, I've got the standard wall outlet adapter plugged in there right now, but these are modular. These come right out and you can swap it out for any number of connector heads. The other 2 main adapters I have in here, a lot of campgrounds, especially for RVs, have something called a TT30 outlet. And so my car is basically charged after one night at the campsite. The other type of outlet you're most likely to find is a NEMA 1450, and that's what you'll find your dryers and high draw appliances like that plugged into. And this can handle up to, I think, 11 kilowatts, which I'm not even sure my car can handle. The J1772 charging standard, in order to work with a Tesla, does require an adapter, which every Tesla ships with. Without a sort of locking collar, anyone can come along and unplug it. So basically, once the J1772 is plugged into the adapter, you slide this over top like that. This gets plugged into the car, and then the latch on the J1772 handle can't be popped open until the adapter is removed from the car first. Very, very handy thing to have. Link in the description if you want to buy one. I've got a pretty durable funnel that I use for refilling my windshield fluid reservoir. And the last thing in here is just a small portable ice scraper that I designed. So for my recovery gear, I mean, it's a car, it's a rear-wheel drive car. I'm not doing like crazy overlanding or anything hardcore, but just having some basic stuff in the car to help get me out of some tricky situations goes a long way. And although it doesn't technically count, it was definitely one of the first upgrades I went for as soon as I realized how stupid of a decision it was to not have them. I went out and got myself a set of winter tires, because in a past winter camping trip, I got myself stuck and had to pay almost $300 to get myself pulled a couple feet sideways. And the MVP of that whole situation was definitely the tow hook, which is kept in the frunk. It just screws right in and lets the car get pulled or moved sideways in order to get it out of tricky situations, like has already happened to me. But as for your quote-unquote more traditional recovery gear, I've got a set of traction pads, which as you can see, they've already had to be used as well. Nothing fancy. These are just $20 sets of traction pads from Walmart. They've already got me unstuck once. Aside from that, I've also got some kitty litter in there. And the idea is that on ice, I spread some around and just add some grit so that my car can hopefully get enough traction to get some momentum going. And then, although it's a car, I shouldn't really be doing this, but if I do have to air down the tires a little bit just to get that little bit of extra traction to get me unstuck, I do keep that portable tire inflator I reviewed a while ago in the car so that I can actually air my tires back up. This is something called a get home bag. This also lives in the car full time. Like I was saying, like what if I'm halfway across the country, like 3 provinces away in Halifax, just something happens and the car becomes unusable. I can't drive it and I need to be able to get home. So what do I do in that situation? And that's where the get home bag comes in. Basically, it is supposed to be a bag that is self-contained to keep me on the go for 24 hours in order to get home without my car in a situation where I got there with the car. And it doesn't weigh much at all. The water is by far the most heaviest thing in there. So first and foremost, we've got a single liter of water sticking in the side there. And if you're a backpacker, you'll know why I love smart water bottles so much. These water bottles are extremely durable, so that once I crack the water bottle and drink what's in here, I can reuse it as a water bottle and just refill it as necessary. So in the front, I've just got a small little ouch pouch. All this is like some Band-Aids and stuff like that, some hand sanitizer. One of the most important things in here, a paper map of Ontario. Now, obviously, if I'm in another province, this isn't going to help me any, but 90% of where I am on my adventures is within the province. Some toilet paper for obvious reasons. Moving on to this compartment, I just threw in some dryer lint in there in case I need to start a fire. Again, this is just for a simple getting home scenario. You know, nothing crazy's going on. It's just another day where something went wrong in Mike's world. A little lighter for the same sort of reason. Some bug spray, because if I have to hike in the dead of summer, especially in a rural area where in the middle of bug season, oh man, you want to make sure you have some of that in there. Sunscreen, because even in April, you'd be surprised at how much sun exposure you get when you're outside. Got a simple cutlery set for eating. A super simple, rudimentary, super cheap knife. Just a simple, really crappy steel. And most importantly, with a whistle built into the sheath. And now into the second last compartment. So I had to ball it up so you don't have to see my underwear, but I've got a set of boxers, a pair of socks, and an extra t-shirt. This is mostly just to serve as a cup in case I need it, but this is made of aluminum, so if I do find myself in that 0.1% of 0.1% situations where I do need to get more water by boiling it because there's no stores or something nearby, like I'm in a really rural area or something, I can boil it in this pot. And in the pot, I just have some cordage. Also in here, I have 24 hours worth of food. And aside from some oatmeal, which does require some hot water, most of this is just granola bars, Rice Krispie squares, dried fruit, stuff I can eat on the go without having to stop. And now, for the last panel on the side here. And the only things that we have in here are a reflective vest, because if I have to walk at the side of the road, especially this time of year where it gets dark super early and takes a while in the morning to get light, having a reflective vest so I don't get plowed by idiot drivers who are on their phones driving down a one-lane freeway helps out a lot. I've got a space blanket style emergency shelter. It ain't gonna be the best thing in the world. It ain't gonna be comfortable, but it works. I've got a space blanket, which is to cover me up. And I, of course, just have an emergency rain poncho in there. And yeah, this just sits in the car, in the well underneath the main trunk. And it stays out of sight, out of mind until the time comes where I actually need it. As you can see, it's obviously not anything too crazy that I'm talking about in terms of this emergency preparedness gear, but it does help out considerably and has saved my bacon on more than one occasion already. So hopefully this video has proven helpful to you guys and given you some ideas of stuff to put in your own car for road trips and the like.